Esther Sarlo is here, who is also living in Canada's West Coast and is someone who enjoys talking about authenticity, deep connections, spirituality, health, healing, and light as much as I do. And she's here today as a voice for the body's role in healing and wholeness in the universe. I am so grateful for you, the audience, for tuning into Awaken and Ascend. I'm Jennifer Regular, your host, and I am super excited to welcome our guest today. So let me take a moment just to introduce Esther Sarlo. She is a trusted source of information and connection to vetted, experienced, and outstanding practitioners. Mind Myself's prime detective is here to help you become your own best health advocate. As the cornerstone of this game-changing project, Esther is the catalyst for creating this beautiful space where healing, connections, and collaboration can emerge. As a voice for today's role in healing and wholeness in the universe and the body's role, Esther is an entrepreneur, facilitator, speaker, and writer who is passionately committed to making it easier for you to live and speak your authentic life. Today, we will be getting into why becoming your own best health advocate is vitally important. We're unlocking the secrets to standing in your power. Welcome, Esther. What a fantastic group and gaming of insights that you're bringing with you today. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm so thrilled to be engaging with you, Jennifer. You're an amazing being on this planet.
Thank you so much. And I love that you're talking about self-advocacy because we don't often give ourselves the voice that we need to really be in our power and ask for what we need and ask the questions that give us the information that can best support us in all of the choices that we make. And health is really expands into every layer and area of our being. So I'm so grateful that you're doing this work. And I'm curious, Esther, what got you inspired to be walking this path?
Oh, the story goes back a long time, actually. The path is new, but also the path is long. And I would say about 15 years ago, I found out, I'll keep the story short, but I found out I had 10 inches of blood clot in my arm. And Western medicine saved my life. I went into surgery. They put me on a medication called warfarin for 6 months, which I was not happy about, but they saved my life. And I was profoundly grateful. But through that process, and at the end, I said, okay, so help me understand why this happened. I'm eating well, I'm drinking water, I exercise, I don't drink, I don't smoke, those kinds of things. And why did this happen? And how can I prevent this from happening in the future? And they had no answers for me. So yes, they saved my life, but they had no answers. And I went, okay, so if my body is in this predisposition to have this happen, then I better be on the journey to finding some answers because they're not going to give me any. And so I tried a route of many different therapists, practitioners, medical people, and I had to stumble around because it wasn't easy to find, well, who should I consult? I eventually found live or functional blood analysis people that could really help me get a snapshot of what was happening. I went to traditional Chinese medicine. I did lots of massage at various different people. And I went, well, how do we find these people? And how do we even find the information about what those modalities are, what those healthcare approaches are? And it's hard. If you don't know the questions to ask and you don't know the directions to take, then you could go down rabbit holes forever on Google. So I decided about 3 years ago to do some research and then make that available to the world. I designed it. I'm giving you a little secret here. I designed it especially for women, but everybody is welcome. You're welcome to come, anybody. So, but I designed it especially for women 40s and up, because that's the time when we're starting to really notice what's happening differently in our bodies, and that the things we used to be able to do, whether healthy or we can't do them the same way anymore. And so where do we go for help and for answers? So that's a bit of the journey of me coming to this place and creating Mind Myself. And I also wanted to make it easier for people to find practitioners.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. And it's really interesting, isn't it, that our first response is always Western medicine, and it's useful usually as a first response. But then to go any deeper, I hear this all the time. People don't find the answers that they need. It's still like a medical mystery of sorts, right? And it's like a reaction. This is like all we know. This is what we've been conditioned to think, and then we just go and do that, you know?
Mhm.
And then we start to go a little deeper. Well, why did that happen? What was the source of that? What's really going on with my body? And then it really connects us with our body's wisdom and also the other forms of wisdom that are out there. Like you mentioned, the traditional Chinese medicine and some other modalities and practices that are out there. And now you've become so inspired that you brought everybody all together as like a one-stop shop for people to find the answers and the remedies, the modalities that can best support health, and not just like fixing something or getting rid of something or finding a cure for something, but actually being able to maintain and sustain our health and really learn more about it. And then it's so often that we give away our power to even alternative practitioners and doctors and psychics and mediums, for finding answers, when a
Mhm.
lot of the answers can be also found within. And sometimes going out, we start learning what questions to ask, and the answers can come through that way. But I know that you're also doing work of being able to unlock our own power. So I'd love to hear about that. Like, how do we even begin to do that when we're so used to asking other people for help and answers?
But that's such a great topic to discuss. So I don't have any grand secrets. I'll tell you, I don't have grand secrets. What I do, what I'm on the journey too, with you and with anybody who's listening. I'm on this journey. How do I learn to listen to my body more clearly and sooner?
Mm.
Because my body, I believe we have lived from here up for most of our life, certainly in the Western world with certain cultures. I think perhaps a culture that you come from, you might have been more in touch with your own body. Not sure about that. Don't want to make a judgment. But many of us have lived from here up, and the body's just been an inconvenient receptacle that houses our mind that we have to feed and water and clothe and house and hydrate and all of that kind of stuff. But we haven't really given it the attention that it's asking for.
Mm.
So one of the things that I suggest, and asking for help is a great way to start, especially if we haven't been in touch with our bodies. So going to your doctor or going to a practitioner. But here's the thing, ask them questions. And I've written a couple of blogs to get people started, because many practitioners, for instance, haven't had a lot of training, especially in Western medicine, in nutrition.
Mm.
And nutrition is the bedrock of all our health. And if we're not paying attention to that, then the rest of the stuff isn't going to do what it needs to do in the best way possible. So ask questions, pay attention to your nutrition, and it's okay to get a second opinion. It really is okay to get a second or third. And it's not just about finding somebody who agrees with you, but it's going, listening and going, that's the right direction.
Uh-huh.
And I love this analogy too. We spend so much time, if we're going to move into a new place, especially if we own it, or even if we don't, but it's going to be our home, we think about colors. We think about textures. We think about the kind of furniture we're going to put in it and how comfortable it is. Are we thinking about comfort? Or are we thinking about style? Or are we thinking about a combination of both? What's the floor going to look like? And we know that some people want to know about the inside spaces in the kitchens, and some people care about the garages or the workspaces. And so, but we spend all this time paying attention to that. But when it comes to our own health and advocating for our own health, we just go to a doctor and say, okay, what's wrong with me?
Mm.
What? What if we paid attention to the color? What if we paid attention to the nuances and started that conversation with ourselves first? So
Mm.
that would be a first step that I would say, is ask questions. Certainly you're welcome to come to Mind Myself and find some directions to go to, because that's a good place to start. And it's simple and clear and beautiful. And you can go, oh, I know, What is somatic experiencing? What does an osteopath really do? Reiki. What's Reiki? What is energy medicine in general, etc.? So you can ask all those questions and find the beginnings of that information right there.
Oh, I love that. I love that so much. It's such a powerful resource, for inside and outside. And it comes through curiosity and interest and really investing some time in investigating, how we can best support our health and well-being. And so, is there even a difference between health and well-being and wellness?
Wow, I don't know if I've thought about that question. I use them, I think, interchangeably, but let's just have a quick conversation around that. So, health could typically be assumed, one definition would be just the state of our bodies, but really, I think it's body, mind, and spirit. So, health and wellness and well being, I believe we should pay attention to the nuances of all three, because that is what health is all about. So if we just have health and we think of it only as physical, I think we're missing out. Body, mind, and spirit has to be a part of all of it.
Yeah, I find it really interesting because we just hearing always health and well-being, they go together and yet they're separate, when we talk about it. And then there's mental health and financial health, but then people have also started changing that into mental wellness and spiritual wellness and financial wellness. And it's just really interesting how language changes as information and transformation happens as well. And so health has its own kind of stigma and conditioning around it. And then we also talk about like disorders and dis-ease. But then when we start talking about wellness, you hear a lot of people say the only difference between illness and wellness is that we change the I to we. And so that's really interesting. It just shifts our perspective in how we view and maybe approach health, wellness, and well-being and disorders and disease and all of the different ways. And so what do you feel is important that impacts each one of those things on the mental, spiritual, physical, financial, the whole wheel of wellness and health, that you also talk about body? Like how do we bring it all together and think of, instead of thinking each one individually or separately, how does it all come together?
Wow, such a deep question, really. I think it all comes together in our beings. And I think if we're on the journey, let's use the word of wellness and well-being and leave health to the side for a moment. But I think whatever word you choose, language is important, but in another sense, it almost doesn't matter which word you choose. It's if you're taking the action.
Right.
So if I really want to be well, if I really want to be healthy, if I really want to live in well-being, I have to do my internal work. I have to take care of my body, but I have to take care of my mind, and I have to take care of my spirit. And what that means for me in this moment is I have to look at what I'm doing well, and I celebrate. That's great. Celebration, like physical celebration when I do something well, or something is going well, or I have treated my body with a delicious salad, which I just had for lunch. That's the time of day we're recording right now. So celebrating the wins, and then also digging deep and taking a look at the areas that stop us, or where we're stuck, and to go, okay, there's a memory I had that continues to niggle at me from when I was 5 or 2 or 11 or whatever that is, where there's some kind of traumatic impact. What am I going to do with that story? And ask some questions. Is that running me? Do I need to go look for some help? Is there somebody like yourself, Jennifer, who could come along and help us bring light into some of those dark places and release some of that stuck energy? And so there's the body and there's the mind, and I think that the spirit is intricately connected with that. I believe that we're spiritual beings on a human journey. And so what did we come here for? And there is so much controversy about, did I choose this family? Did I choose this time? And how many choices do we have around that? But let's assume for a moment that I had some say in it, but even if I didn't, but here I am, and I'm living this human journey, and I am a spirit. So what did I want to come for? I think it's really important that we look at our purpose. Why am I on this planet? For me, not for anybody else right now, but for me, what is my job? What is my work? What is my heart? What is my compassion? What is my role in helping humanity become more of what it needs to be? So I think we need to incorporate all of those things for health, for wellness, and for well-being.
I love it. And you mentioned the mind, the body, the spirit, and all of that. And then you also mentioned earlier about food and how there's several practitioners out there in internal medicine, like medical professionals, that don't necessarily have the education around nutrition and how food can even be used as medicine. And some food actually hurts our bodies or disrupts it, the way that it functions and systems, how they operate. And some of it really helps to nurture and heal, like we hear in Ayurvedic practices, for example. And so it's really interesting to talk about food then and what we're consuming, any type of food that we're intaking and consuming in our life, like even the news feeds and social media feeds and then actual food, like produce and all the different dietary preferences and restrictions and accommodations that people need because they know what they're more in tune with their body and how they react and what they want to invite into their body and so on. So people are having more of a voice and advocacy around that. And I love all the different ways we can nourish ourselves. And as we nourish, we flourish. And so that can come from food. It can come from living our passion and our purpose and doing our work here and being our authentic selves and being an advocate and doing all the things that really helps us to feel alive and well, And so I love that. And with the energy, I always go to passion because it speaks volumes. When you break up the word, it's pass I on. I being your soul's expression of what you're here to pass on in this lifetime. And so you're here, Esther, as this voice for humanity to speak up and to ask questions and to advocate. And sometimes we don't even really know what the questions are, what we should even be asking or looking for. And so I imagine a lot of your work too is bringing that education, awareness, that consciousness so that people can make choices and know what to ask and who to ask. So take us through that as well. Like, how do you support people in being an advocate for themselves?
Well, coming to Mind Myself, just the website in general is there for that purpose. So if you want to look up some healthcare approaches, it's there. If you want to look up some health issues, the beginning descriptions are there. And some of what typical treatments have been, not recommending anything particular, but just providing the information. If you want to find a practitioner, we're continuing to expand that database. We also have such things as podcasts like we're doing here. You and I have done a couple as well, and blogs. And so what's the process? It's you bring yourself to your journey. So you're wherever you are in your journey. If you come upon Mind Myself or you're having a conversation with me, I welcome those too. Start asking, just looking around and finding some little tidbits. If you want to find out about how to be your own best health advocate, I felt so strongly about this. I wrote 2 different blogs on it, and there are some steps you can take. And I have a couple of them printed out here so that I can refer to them. But I think it's really important to do a little bit of reading and go, oh, right, those are the questions I can ask. Because if you don't know where to start, then it's a good idea to consult something else to get you going. And then the next step is putting it into practice and trying things out. Going, oh, okay, maybe I will. I love that you talked about food and consuming. It's not just food that we're consuming. And we also have on the Mind Myself website what I call mindful health discussions. And we've had 5 so far. And we have in each one, 3 practitioners talking about different things like hormones and menopause. One was called What the Hormone is Happening to Me and What Can I Do About It? And then we did one on sleep and stress and stamina, because sleep is so important these days. We did one on chronic stress and inflammation. And then the last one we did was on just on this topic, digestive health. And we had such a great conversation with an energy worker and a herbalist. And we were supposed to have a registered nutritionist on, but she had an emergency at the last minute. So we had a gynecologist and sex worker all talking about digestive health. Well, if that doesn't cover the whole gamut,
Right.
I don't know what does.
Wow.
So yeah, so those are all on the website too, under the events section, and they're free. So there's, I would say, start exploring. That's the first place to look, is start exploring, do a little bit of reading, and see what direction you want to take next. And again, the next step after that, take some action. Prioritize yourself, because you matter, which is our tagline, and because you're worth it. So prioritize yourself to be on this journey, and then take some steps.
Yes. I love that idea of exploring. I'm definitely an explorer, and being playful with it and being curious and interested, playing the detective or the researcher. Because sometimes people can get really into a place of fear and looking for answers and trying to figure it all out, right? And they're searching Google and finding a lot of mixed information, very confusing information, one thing saying one thing, the other one saying the other, and contradicting each other. And it can get so confusing, and it's really fear-based. So I love that you're vetting out the best practitioners and various perspectives, but that really are more love-based than the fear-based, that play off of that fear, So that's something I really appreciate about your resources, your site that you offer. And then the blog, so people can really read about it and go deeper with it instead of just looking for facts and figures and all this kind of like little bits of information. You really bring it all together. And I'm curious about the name, about Mind Myself, and where that came from.
To be honest, to be honest, my partner and I, Bill, who is the artist of that painting in the background, you're only seeing a little snip of it there. We were having a brainstorming session one day and going, okay, we really want a name that, for me, it really resonates. And we were trying a few things out and looking at some availabilities, because you might have a name and then somebody else has got it. And we just stumbled upon this one. And I went, oh, that infuses what we're talking about, because the whole website itself is direct address. So it's from us to you, and you are reading it. And so the message is for you, whoever you are. And the idea is, if the goal is to help us all become our own best health advocate, and I'm talking about Mind Myself and having my in the first word too, it just seems to infuse the whole thing with that energy of advocating for myself and taking care of myself and prioritizing myself. And as you said, loving myself.
Oh, I love that. And so the website then is mindmyself.com.
Yes.
MIND myself. Yes. Amazing. And we're going to have that in the show notes as well. But you mentioned that you had printed out a couple blogs to reference. Was there something in there that you wanted to share as well?
Well, there's a quote in here, and I think it's worth sharing. There, in a Harvard blog titled "Take Control of Your Harvard Health blog, Take Control of Your Healthcare, Exert Your Patient Autonomy." So they're even saying this in Harvard Healthcare, so which is a really conventional place. Yeah. And it's by an author, Carolyn A. Bernstein. She says, physicians study for years to become doctors and bring their scientific knowledge and clinical acumen to the office and the bedside. Patients may not have those skills, but they know their own bodies, tolerance for treatment, and the manner in which they are comfortable receiving care. And I thought, that is so brilliant. I want to highlight that, because we don't bring, generally, some people are scientists, so they would, but most of us don't bring that medical or scientific background to us. But if we spend the time, we know our own bodies best. And we know what kind of care we want. I personally don't want a brusque doctor who doesn't have time for me, or any kind of practitioner.
Yeah.
I want somebody who's caring, who's authentic, who is doing what they're doing because they give a rip, because they want to do good in the world. And of course, they're making a living doing that too. I honor and respect that. But they actually want to contribute something, and they delight in helping people have better journeys in life. That's who I want to work with. And so I would encourage us all to find those kinds of people and practitioners. And that's what I delight in bringing with Mind Myself, is people who care, practitioners who care.
Oh, yeah. Amazing. I love that. I love that so much. And I'm curious, for everyone that's been tuning in, watching, listening to this, what kind of experience have you had with Western, Eastern medicine, or with your doctors, with your health issues, no matter if it's mental health, physical health, financial health, any of the types of health and wellness that's available, or alternative remedies that you found really useful? I'd be so interested to hear about that, what you've tried, what's worked, what hasn't. So be sure to drop those in the comments too. And Esther and I will look at those and respond to them. And of course, if you like this video, you can give us a thumbs up so we can expand our audience and who we get to reach through this kind of information, which I just love today, Esther. Thank you so much for all of this and all the wisdom that you shared. And before we go, I wonder if there is anything else that you would like to share with the audience.
Well, I have a few other quotes here, and I'm going to pick one because there's so many really great
All the time
quotes.
you want. Yeah.
Okay, there are so many great quotes out there. And I have one of my favorite authors was Madeleine L'Engle, and I had the privilege a number of years back, she's no longer on the planet with us, but a number of years back, to spend a week in her presence. And it was miraculous how that came to be. But she says, we don't stop playing because we grow old. We grow old because we stop playing. So I wanted to bring that in. And I also wanted to say this one. Wellness encompasses a healthy body, a sound mind, and a tranquil spirit. Enjoy the journey as you work toward wellness. And that's by Laurette Gagnon-Beaulieu. So I think that is a great way to end. And I'm doing what I do because you matter.
Oh, that's so beautiful. You matter. Those are such important words. I love it. And something I really advocate for is soul care and finding solace in everyday life to really, keep our spirit intact. And so for everyone watching, you can check the video description below. There's a link to download your free guide to soul care and finding solace in everyday life. And I wonder how people can connect with you, Esther.
Well, we're going to put this in the notes, but you can reach out through the Mynd Myself website, myndmyself.com, or just you can drop me an email, Esther and that's ESTHER @myndmyself.com. And of course, we welcome visitors. We've had over 56 countries. People from 56 countries have come to the website so far. So we'd love you to be one of that number. Check out our events and recordings, and we'd love to be in touch with you.
Fantastic. Yeah, we'll definitely have those links in the show notes there. Thank you again, everyone, for tuning in to Awaken and Ascend. We will see you all next week. And thank you so much, Esther. It's been a blast having this conversation with you.
Thank you so much.
Bye for now.
Bye.